Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB games scheduled for Saturday, June 25th, 2022. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at pickdawgz.com. Alrighty, here we go. Here are the games for Saturday, June 25th. First up, we see the Houston Astros taking on the New York Yankees. We're going to see Garrett Cole and Christian Javier as your starters for this one. Now, even though Garrett Cole can sometimes struggle in the big games and the big moments against some of the tougher teams in the American League, I still think he's the better option on the mound here. I also like his lineup to back him up in the Yankees. The Yankees right now, #1 in baseball in the last 30 days in team OPS and isolated power against right-handed pitching. And Christian Javier, a right-hander himself, I do much prefer him as a bullpen pitcher, as a reliever, than I do as a starting pitcher. We've seen the walks be an issue for Javier as of late, 7 walks in his last 11 innings. And we've also seen at times the home run be an issue, especially on his fastball. Now, right now, Javier is in the bottom 48th percentile in average exit velocity and the bottom 33rd percentile in barrel percentage. And I think that could come back to bite him against a very powerful Yankees lineup that's capable of really top to bottom of hitting a home run. We also see the Yankees bullpen's one of the best in baseball, even though Houston's is as well. This Yankees team is comfortable with the lead, is comfortable when they're down. We already saw them come back from 3 runs down in the 9th inning in Game 1 of this series. That's 9 walk-off wins the Yankees have on the year. We're not even halfway through this season. They've had an excellent home record. I got to take the Bombers here at a really good price. Give me the Yankees on the money line. Next up, we see the Pittsburgh Pirates taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. JT Brubaker and Corey Kluber are your starters for this one. Now, in terms of just plain value, I do think the Pirates are the play, in my opinion. I just think this game is a lot closer to a coin flip than the price suggests on the money line for Tampa Bay. I think Corey Kluber is a solid option for the Rays on the mound, but I also think the same for JT Brubaker. I've mentioned it before. I do think he is a lot better than his ERA suggests, and we're starting to see that in his last 11 1/3 innings, only giving up 2 earned runs against the Cardinals and Cubs. 10 strikeouts in that stretch. We're starting to see him miss some more bats. He's limiting home runs, only giving up 1 home run in his last 3 outings combined. And against the Rays lineup that just hasn't done very much against right-handed pitching in the last 30 days, in fact, ranked 29th in the league in team OPS against righties in the last 30 days, I just think this game is going to be a close one, and I would rather have the plus money with the underdog in an interleague kind of game where stats can sometimes go out the window. I think the plus money value is where I'm headed. Give me the Pittsburgh Pirates on the money line. Next up, we see the Baltimore Orioles taking on the Chicago White Sox. Now, we don't have an official starter listed for the Orioles. We should see Lance Lynn for the White Sox. Now, I suggest that the Orioles don't start a lefty, as the White Sox have absolutely crushed lefties this season. But provided that the Orioles do start a righty, I do lean towards the under in this game. Not my favorite game overall, but you look at the weather, 18-mile-per-hour winds blowing in from right field. A little bit cooler day with some chance of rain in Chicago. I think that's going to benefit the pitchers here, especially a guy like Lance Lynn that keeps the ball in the yard for the most part. He has struggled with the home run ball to start the season, but he's known as a ground ball guy. He's known as a guy that's really efficient with his pitches, that can go 6-7 innings each start. The White Sox are going to need that from him if they want to make a race or want to get back into the division race in the AL Central. I think he pitches well here. We saw the White Sox get shut out by these Orioles in the first game in the series on Thursday. So I think this is going to be a low-scoring game overall. I'm going to lean towards the under in this one. Next up, we see the Chicago Cubs taking on the St. Louis Cardinals. Now, unfortunately, we have another spot where we don't have an official starter listed for the Cubs in this game. We should see Miles Mikolas on the mound for the Cardinals, and that's enough for me to take a lean with the Cardinals on the money line here. If the price is a little too steep, I would think about laying a run and a half as well with St. Louis. Mikolas is pitching a lot better recently than he did in the beginning of June, the end of May. You look at Mikolas' last 3 starts against the Rays, Pirates, and Brewers. Each of those starts, he went at least 6 innings. He went 8 innings against the Rays, 2 earned runs, and 9 strikeouts. Against the Pirates, 8 2/3 innings. He had a no-hitter through 8 2/3 innings, and then he gave up a double at the end of that game. 6 strikeouts, and a fantastic performance from him. And then in the next start, although it wasn't good enough to get the win, Mikolas still went 6 1/3, 2 earned runs, and he's been pitching a lot better now, and I do like him in this spot against a Cubs lineup that I'd much rather see against a lefty than a right-handed pitcher. Chicago Cubs bullpen is just not good enough for me to trust them in a bullpen game if that's what they decide to do here. Give me the St. Louis Cardinals on the money line. Next up, we see the New York Mets taking on the Miami Marlins. Now we're going to see Chris Bassett and Trevor Rogers as your projected starters. Now the New York Mets haven't done too much against lefties this season, but they did good enough against Rogers in their last outing to get the win in that game 6-0. We saw Rogers go 5 innings, giving up 4 total runs. 3 of those were earned, 2 walks, and 7 strikeouts in that one. So he's able to miss some bats. But Trevor Rogers just hasn't been the same this season. A 1.62 whip. He's really struggled in the first inning of games, so he's definitely always a Yurfie candidate. I know Mitch loves taking those Yurfies when Rogers is on the mound. He just struggles in the early innings. He does get a lot sharper as the game continues, but he's just not been good enough for me to take a chance with the Marlins in this spot. Chris Bassett, he's been inconsistent as of late, but he's been pretty good in his last couple starts. You look at his last 14 and third, only giving up 3 earned runs with 16 strikeouts, no home runs allowed in that stretch. I think Bassett's good enough here for the Mets to win this game. I trust the Mets lineup and bullpen a lot more as well. Give me New York on the money line. The Washington Nationals are taking on the Texas Rangers at Globe Life Field. Now, unfortunately, we have another instance of no official starter listed for the Texas Rangers this time. We should see Josiah Gray for the Nationals. I'm going to lean towards the Nationals here. I think in this series, this would be the type of game the Nationals could win, as I don't trust the Rangers bullpen if they decide to go with the bullpen game, or if they go with a starter that's an opener that's only going to go 2-3 innings. I think the Rangers have one of the weakest bullpens in baseball, in my opinion. And Josiah Gray, I've been saying we've seen some struggling signs. We've seen him give it the home run ball, 14 home runs this season, but he misses bats. He's at 73 strikeouts in 68 1/3 innings. He hasn't given up a home run in each of his last 2 outings against pretty good lineups in the Marlins and Phillies, and he also hasn't given up an earned run in that stretch. His last 11 innings, no earned runs allowed, 10 strikeouts in that stretch. He's been pitching lights out baseball. I like him enough to take a chance with the Nationals here on the money line, and we're probably going to get a good price with Washington as well. Give me the Nats on the money line. Next up, we see the Oakland Athletics taking on the Kansas City Royals. Jared Koenig and Brad Keller are your starters for this contest. 2 starting pitchers that just faced the opposition not too long ago. Koenig on June 19th in a 4-0 Oakland A's win, and then Brad Keller was also able to earn a victory in his start against the A's back on June the 18th, the day before, in a 2-0 victory. Now, Keller went 7 innings of 1-hit baseball with 6 strikeouts. I was shocked to see that from him, as he really struggled in his previous starts to that one. Koenig, he went 5 2/3 innings, no earned runs himself. Now, the thing that worries me more about Koenig, though, is he didn't have a single strikeout in that start, and he allowed 4 walks, so a 4-0 walk-to-strikeout ratio in that outing. And I know he was able to get the win. I know the A's were able to back him up, but you're not going to be able to consistently pitch well in the big leagues if you're not missing bats and you're walking a ton of guys. I do think the Royals lineup is doing a lot better recently than they did in the beginning of the season, and I like the Royals in this spot behind Keller, but certainly not my favorite game on the board, as I don't really trust either of these starters too much. Next up, we see the Toronto Blue Jays taking on the Milwaukee Brewers. We're going to see former NL Cy Young Corbin Burnes going at Yusei Kikuchi in this contest. Now, Kikuchi has given up at least 2 home runs in 3 of his last 4 starts. Although the strikeouts have been there for Kikuchi, he's allowing walks, he's allowing home runs, and the earned runs have started to pile up for him as well, putting his ERA just under 5 at 4.94. On the road this season, he's 0-1 with a 4.7 ERA, so a little bit better earned run average on the road, but not good enough for me to take a chance with the Blue Jays here. Corbin Burnes is pitching really well as of late. In his last start, 7 innings, 10 strikeouts against the Cardinals, 2 hits allowed in a 2-0 Milwaukee win. The Brewers have won the last 2 games that Burnes has been on the mound, and has been against pretty good teams in the Cardinals and Mets. I know the Blue Jays lineup is very, very tough to face, but Burnes is one of the best starting pitchers in the league for a reason. I'm going to lean towards the Brewers here on the money line. I think they have the better starter and better bullpen, and although their lineup isn't the best against lefties, I think they find a way to get some offense on Kikuchi. Give me Milwaukee on the money line. Next up, we see the Boston Red Sox taking on the Cleveland Guardians. Now we're going to see Josh Winkowski and Shane Bieber on the mound for this contest. Now, even though Shane Bieber I do think is a tad overrated, I still think he's good enough here for the Guardians to win this game. The reason why I say he's a little bit overrated, or I would say his public perception is a little bit too high, is because although he strikes out a ton of guys, he's got 84 Ks in 78 innings, the biggest reason I worry about him is because he's always susceptible to the home run ball. It's been that way basically from the start of his career in the majors. He's given up a home run in each of his last 2 starts, and he's had very bad average exit velocity, hard hit percentage, barrel percentage this season and in years past, so he makes him susceptible to the home run ball. Now, the Red Sox lineup has been very good against right-handed pitching, but more in the OPS, or the on base department. In terms of slugging and isolated power, the Red Sox are ranked 23rd in the last 30 days against righties. So I do think Bieber is good enough here to get the win. Could see Boston hitting 1 or 2 home runs on him, but I don't think it's going to be enough, as I think the Guardians are going to get to Winkowski. He's only had 9 strikeouts in 14 2/3 innings. The walks, he's given up at least 1 in each of his first 3 starts this season. He's just not experienced enough for me to take a chance on him. He also hasn't faced very tough teams this season: Orioles, A's, and Tigers. This is going to be the toughest matchup he's faced all year. A Cleveland lineup that does not strike out. They lead the league in fewest strikeout percentage in the last 30 days against right-handed pitching, only striking out 16.3% of the time against those righties. They're going to put the ball in play, and I think Winkowski's in trouble here. Give me the Cleveland Guardians on the money line. Next up, we see the Cincinnati Reds taking on the San Francisco Giants. Mike Minor and Logan Webb are your starters here. Now, I don't think that Logan Webb is an ace caliber starting pitcher, but he's a very, very good number 2. He's pitching like it this season with a 6-2 record, 3.26 ERA, solid whip at 1.16, gets 75 Ks in 85 2/3 innings. I'd like to see that number rise a little bit, but not too bad for a pitch to contact guy. He's only given up 1 earned run in his last 14 innings of work. And I think against the Reds here with Mike Minor on the mound, the Giants are going to win this game pretty comfortably. You know, Mike Minor had a good matchup last time against the Brewers, who, like I mentioned before, don't really hit left-handed pitching very well, but he still struggled, giving up 4 earned runs and a home run in that game, 3 walks as well. He's given up at least 3 earned runs in each of his first 4 starts this season, at least a home run in each of his first 4 starts as well, at least 2 walks in each of his last 3 starts. He is just not pitching well enough for the Reds for me to even think about taking the dog in this spot. Give me the San Francisco Giants here on the run line, laying 1.5 runs. Next up, we see the Colorado Rockies taking on the Minnesota Twins. Antonio Senzatella and Chris Archer are your starters for this one. And the Minnesota Twins are number 4 in baseball in the last 30 days in team OPS against righties, number 4 as well in isolated power against righties. But they have had some interesting spots as of late where the offense just hasn't shown up. Against Zach Plesac, where the wind was blowing out to the outfield, it looked like a great chance for the Twins to score plenty of runs. I was on the team total over, but they only scored 1 run on a Nick Gordon home run, and it was really disappointing. Guys like Luis Ariz are in a little bit of a slump as well. So against Antonio Senzatella, it does match up really well for Minnesota. We're just going to have to see what they can do, and it's just going to be a national televised game on Fox. And I don't really trust Chris Archer on the mound for this game for Minnesota. 3.44 ERA, but I do think it's going to rise quite a bit as the season continues. We saw him give up 2 home runs last time and only 4 innings of work against the Diamondbacks. That was a 7-1 Twins loss. I think this Twins bullpen is one of the worst in baseball. I also think this Rockies bullpen is the worst in baseball. So with 2 subpar starters, with 2 really bad bullpens, and with a Twins lineup that's crushing the ball against righties, this game sets me up well for an over. So I'm going to take the over in the Rockies Twins. Next up, we see the Los Angeles Dodgers taking on the Atlanta Braves. This is also going to be a nationally televised game, so it's going to depend on where your market is. You'll either get the Rockies and Twins, or you'll get the Dodgers and Braves. Hopefully, you get the Dodgers and Braves. I think that'll be a more entertaining game. Andrew Heaney and Max Fried are your starters for this one. Now, Andrew Heaney, watch out. He's got a sub-1 ERA of 0.59, but he's only had 3 outings this year against the Twins, Reds, and Guardians. This is going to be the toughest spot he's had all season long, as he faced the Twins when they were struggling early on this year. Reds aren't very good offensively, and the Guardians have not hit lefties well at all this season. Now you're taking on one of, if not the best lineup against left-handed pitching this year in the Atlanta Braves, the defending World Series champs. And Max Fried pitched really well against this Dodgers lineup the first time he saw him at Dodger Stadium, more towards the beginning of the season. Max Fried's been just really good on the mound for Atlanta this season. What more can be said? He's got to be up there in the NL Cy Young favorites this season. 7-2 with a 2.77 ERA. He's in the top 20 in WHIP this year with a 1.05 WHIP. 83 strikeouts and 87 2/3 innings. Isn't too shabby at all. He limits the home run ball. He limits walks. And he limits hard contact in general. I think he's good enough here for me to take a chance with the Braves at home. Give me Atlanta on the money line. Next up, we see the Seattle Mariners taking on the Los Angeles Angels. Logan Gilbert and Patrick Sandoval are your starters for this one. I mentioned that the Mariners are going to be without Ty France for a little while. Doesn't look like it's going to be too serious of an injury, but we're going to have to wait what the MRI results are for Ty France. And he's been their #1 hitter for sure in terms of team OPS average, the powerful numbers he's got. He is a really big loss for this Mariners lineup that hasn't done too much in terms of runs per game. And against the lefty here in Sandoval, the Mariners haven't been very good against lefties recently, ranked 26th in the league in isolated power in the last 30 days against lefties. And in terms of team OPS, they're ranked 22nd. So Sandoval's been good. He keeps the ball in the yard. I do think there's some regression concerns with his game. He does walk a lot of batters, so his whip is at 1.32, but only 2 home runs allowed this season. They did come in his last 2 outings, but last time out against these Mariners, 6 innings, 1 earned run, 5 strikeouts. Good enough for an Angels win in the end. I think Sandoval's good enough here. And Logan Gilbert on the other side, although his ERA looks really, really sharp, I am concerned a bit with some of the styles of his game. You look at the home run ball. He's only given up 6 home runs this season. His home run to fly ball ratio is below 10%. I don't think that's sustainable. When you look at his average exit velocity, it is up there with some of the worst in the starting pitcher department. So I do think the Angels bats get to Gilbert here. I think Sandoval's good enough for the Halos as well. Give me the Los Angeles Angels on the money line. Next up, we see the Detroit Tigers taking on the Arizona Diamondbacks. Alex Fado and Zach Davies are your starters for this contest. Now, Alex Fado, I do believe he's in a bit of trouble in this start. When you look, he's in the bottom 12th percentile in average exit velo, in the bottom 21st percentile in barrel percentage, and the bottom 12th in expected slugging. That doesn't bode well against this Diamondbacks lineup if you're a right-handed starter, particularly as the Diamondbacks have been one of the stronger teams in terms of isolated power and slugging percentage against those right-handed pitchers this season. So I do think Fado does give up a couple homers and is yanked early in this one. Although the Tigers' bullpen has been good, really good, I would say, this season, I don't trust it to go those 5-6 innings if they need to pull Fado early. And Zach Davies, he wasn't his sharpest last time out against the Padres, but I also think he didn't pitch too poorly. Made a couple mistake pitches that cost him the game in that one. Before that start, he was pitching really well for Arizona, and he has a really simple matchup here against one of the worst lineups in baseball in Detroit, especially against those right-handed right-handed starters, where the Tigers have been ranked dead last against righties and team OPS and isolated power from the get-go. I'm going to take the Arizona Diamondbacks here on the money line and sprinkle a little bit on the run line as well. In our final game of the night, we see the Philadelphia Phillies taking on the San Diego Padres. Now, we don't have an official line out yet, so we could see a pitching change, but we do see Zach Eflin and Blake Snell as your probable starters for now. If these are the starters for this one, I do lean towards the Phillies on the money line here. You look at the Phillies, they've done really well against left-handed pitching this season offensively. Bryce Harper actually has an OPS above 900, even as a lefty, against left-handed pitching this year. And Blake Snell, he already got hit quite hard against the Phillies in the first outing of the season. 3 2/3 innings, 3 earned runs, a home run, 3 walks as well. So he didn't pitch a lot, and he still gave up 3 earned. And Snell, in the first half of the year, I just can't really trust him. He's got great stuff. He can strike out plenty of batters, and I think at the end of the year, he will be somebody we're going to have a ton of value on. But it's going to take about 40-50 innings of work for me to really trust him. He's a little bit wild at times. We've seen him give up plenty of walks already this season, 17 walks in those 29 2/3 innings. He gave up 4 walks last time out against the Rockies, 4 earned runs, 5 total runs in that game. Just can't trust him in the early parts of the season. I do think the Phillies get to him. Give me the Philadelphia Phillies on the money line. And that's it. Those are the games for Saturday, June 25th. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pickdawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.